If weeds keep coming back through your driveway, garden path, or fence line, you already know how frustrating it feels. You spend hours pulling them out by hand, finally getting your yard looking neat, and a few days later, they return like nothing happened. It can feel like a never-ending battle that you just cannot win. Many people turn to heavy chemical sprays that cost a fortune and leave you wondering what exactly you just sprayed near your home. But old-fashioned homestead families had a much simpler way to deal with stubborn weeds. No expensive store-bought sprays are needed for this. There is no complicated equipment to buy or store in your garage. It is just a very cheap method using things many homes already keep right on a kitchen shelf. In this video, you will learn exactly how this simple method works, where you should use it, where you should never use it, and the common mistake that makes most homemade weed killers fail completely. To understand why this old-fashioned method works so well, we first need to look at why weeds are so hard to get rid of in the first place. Weeds are survival experts. They do not need rich soil or careful watering to thrive. They can push their way through tight driveway cracks, spread along sidewalk edges, and completely take over a gravel path in a matter of weeks. When you bend down to pull a weed out of a tight crack, you rarely get the entire root. A tiny piece of that root snaps off and stays hidden under the concrete or gravel. Within a few days, that small piece gathers energy and sends a brand new sprout right back up to the surface. Pulling them by hand is simply not enough for these tough spots. That is why driveways, brick patios, and fence lines are such common problem areas. The cracks protect the root systems. This constant frustration is exactly why so many people rush to the hardware store for chemical weed killers. But those commercial solutions are expensive, especially if you have a long driveway or a large property to maintain. Buying jug after jug adds up quickly. Plus, many folks just do not feel comfortable spraying strong synthetic chemicals around their walkways. This is why people everywhere are looking for cheaper, homestead-style methods that actually get the job done without draining the wallet. But here is the part most people get wrong when trying to make their own solutions at home. Before modern chemical sprays lined the shelves of every garden center, households had to rely on practical, cheap fixes to keep their properties tidy. The secret to this AMISH-inspired approach to weed control is a simple mixture of everyday household vinegar, regular table salt, and a few drops of liquid dish soap. This combination might sound too simple to be effective, but when used correctly, it acts as a powerful drying agent that pulls moisture right out of the plant. Old-fashioned households preferred methods like this because the ingredients were always available, incredibly cheap, and easy to mix in small batches whenever needed. However, it is vital to understand exactly what this solution is meant to do. This works best on young weeds popping up in driveway cracks, sidewalk edges, gravel paths, and places where you absolutely do not want any plants growing back quickly. It is meant to create an environment where the weed cannot survive, but you must use caution. Do not use this mixture directly inside your vegetable beds, your carefully planted flower beds, or anywhere near the roots of plants you want to keep. The salt in this recipe can linger in the dirt and stop all plant growth, which is exactly what you want for a brick patio, but a disaster for your tomato plants. This is where the old-fashioned method becomes incredibly useful for those stubborn hardscape areas around your home. Using this method is straightforward, but the steps must be followed closely to see real results. The first step is choosing the right area. As mentioned, this is a targeted solution. You want to walk around your property and locate the driveway cracks, gravel paths, bare dirt fence lines, sidewalk gaps, and patio edges where weeds are an eyesore. These are the perfect spots because there are no delicate flowers or grass lawns nearby that might accidentally catch the spray. Once you have identified the right areas, you must pick the exact right time. The timing matters more than people think. You need a completely dry, highly sunny day for this to work its best. Check the weather and make sure there is no rain expected for at least 24 to 48 hours. The sun and the heat are actually active ingredients in this process. Applying this in the morning or midday ensures the weeds bake in the sun all afternoon, accelerating the drying out process. Next, you will prepare the simple mixture. You do not need any special gear, just a standard clean spray bottle or a basic garden pump sprayer for larger areas. Pour in 1 gallon of standard white vinegar. Then, add 1 cup of regular table salt. Stir or shake this vigorously until the salt is completely dissolved. If the salt is not dissolved, it will simply clog up the nozzle of your sprayer. Once the liquid is clear, add 1 tablespoon of liquid dish soap. The soap is the secret binding agent. It breaks the surface tension of the weed's leaves, allowing the vinegar and salt mixture to stick to the plant instead of just rolling off onto the ground. Gently swirl the container so the soap mixes in without making too many bubbles. Now it is time to apply the mixture carefully. Walk to your target areas and spray the weeds directly. You want to coat the leaves thoroughly and give a good squirt down at the base of the weed where it meets the ground. Be very deliberate with your spraying. Avoid any overspray that might drift onto your nice lawn or border plants. Keep the nozzle close to the weed. After applying, all you have to do is wait and watch, because the acid in the vinegar and the sodium in the salt work to rapidly draw out moisture. You will often see the leaves begin to wilt and turn brown within just a few hours on a hot day. The leaves will crisp up, but remember that tough, established roots might try to survive. Deep-rooted weeds may need a second treatment a few days later to finally give up. To stop weeds from returning entirely, you need to follow through with the final step of prevention. Once the weeds are completely brown and dead, sweep the driveway cracks or rake the gravel to remove the dead plant material. If you leave the dead weeds there, they simply break down into compost. That feeds the next generation of weed seeds. After clearing the dead weeds, consider filling wide concrete cracks with a proper filler or sand. If it is a bare earth area, adding a thick layer of mulch or extra gravel helps block the sunlight from reaching new seeds. Repeating this simple spray method early in the season, before any new weeds have a chance to mature and drop seeds, is the true secret to long-term success. Even with a method this simple, there are several mistakes that can ruin the entire result. The most common mistake is spraying right before a rainstorm. If it rains within a day of your application, the water will simply wash the vinegar and salt completely away before it has time to work. It will also dilute the mixture, rendering it completely useless, meaning you have wasted both your time and your ingredients. Another frequent error is spraying on very windy days. The wind will catch the fine mist from your spray bottle and carry it directly onto your prized rose bushes or your green lawn, causing spots of dead grass and damaged flowers. You must apply this on a calm, still day, and this one mistake can ruin the whole result for your future gardens. Many people see how well this works on the driveway, and mistakenly decide to use it inside their garden beds to kill weeds between their vegetables. Remember that salt does not just evaporate, it stays in the soil. If you use too much salt in the earth where you want things to grow, you will poison that soil for future planting. That is why this is only for cracks and pathways. Another trap people fall into is expecting a single spray to kill every single deep taproot forever. Some weeds, like massive dandelions or deep thistles, have roots that go down several inches. The top will die off quickly, but that deep root might push up one last desperate sprout. You have to be ready to treat those tough survivors a second time. Finally, many folks make the mistake of waiting until the weeds are 3 feet tall and fully mature before trying to kill them. This old-fashioned mixture is highly effective on young, tender weeds. If you wait until they are massive bushes, they have too much energy stored up, making them much harder to kill with simple household ingredients. When people first hear about using vinegar, salt, and a little dish soap, they often doubt it can handle their driveway weeds. But this method is incredibly attractive for a few very practical reasons. First, it is incredibly cheap. You can buy a gallon of plain white vinegar and a canister of salt for just a few dollars, making the cost per application just pennies compared to expensive name-brand chemical jugs. It is also remarkably simple. There are no complicated mixing ratios that require a calculator, and no special protective hazard gear is needed to handle these basic kitchen items. You do not need any expensive tools besides a cheap plastic spray bottle. This approach is exceptionally good for those small, annoying problem areas. When a few weeds pop up in the brick patio, you do not have to drag out a massive chemical sprayer. You just grab your small household bottle, give it a few quick sprays, and you are entirely done. It is incredibly easy to repeat whenever necessary. This completely fits the homestead-style way of thinking, which is all about finding self-reliant, frugal solutions using what you already have on hand. It empowers the homeowner to take care of property maintenance without constantly running to the store to buy another commercial product. You take control of your own yard care using basic science and practical sense. But even with all these wonderful benefits, it is crucial to understand the honest realities of what you are using. To be completely honest and set the right expectations, you must respect the limitations of this method. This is not something to load into a massive backpack sprayer and coat across your entire front lawn to kill dandelions. If you do that, the vinegar and salt will absolutely kill your green grass right along with the weeds. This is not a selective weed killer, it is a total vegetation killer. As stated before, this is absolutely not for your vegetable beds or your delicate flower gardens. This method is best reserved entirely for cracks in the concrete, gravel driveways, stone walking paths, and specific unwanted growth areas, where you want the ground to remain totally bare. While the ingredients are everyday items and safe to handle without chemical masks, you still want to avoid spraying vinegar directly into your eyes or breathing in the mist. Treat it with the same respect you would any strong cleaning product. Also, understand that some deep-rooted, highly aggressive weeds may return. Nature is stubborn, and you may need repeat treatments to fully exhaust the root system of a particularly tough weed. Acknowledging these limits is how you use this tool successfully without disappointment or accidental damage. To your beautiful landscaping. Tending to a home and keeping a property looking neat does not have to be an expensive, chemical-filled chore. Sometimes the best solution is not the most expensive, brightly colored bottle sitting on the store shelf. Sometimes it is the simple, quiet method that hardworking people used long before every single problem in our lives became a manufactured product to buy. By mixing a little vinegar, a touch of salt, and a drop of soap, you are taking a step back to a more practical, resourceful way of living. You are saving money, solving a frustrating problem, and keeping your walkways perfectly clear. If you enjoy simple, old-fashioned home and garden solutions like this, subscribe to Plain and Prosperous. We share practical wisdom for everyday living. And tell us in the comments, where do stubborn weeds cause the biggest problem around your home?